Today we're going to talk about the value of assumed breach testing and good entry criteria.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's start with what's assumed breach testing.
Sure thing. So assumed breach testing is a little bit in the name. You're testing, operating under the assumption that somebody is already in your environment. So it's not a fully black box, fully unauthenticated test. These testers are working with credentials. They're working with access to the environment the same way that a standard user or a authenticated employee would be.
Understood. Can you give us some examples of assumed breach testing and what sort of things that the team would do?
Sure thing, yeah. So when we look at assumed breach testing, there's quite a few ways that you can go about it. One of the most common is doing a web application penetration test, and you're given credentials to access the app. So, if it's not sort of standard self-registration user functionality, this app is restricted to a certain user base, then a lot of the time to actually test that user functionality, developers will give us credentials to mimic those users. Another really common way is if you're going through an internal infrastructure penetration test, we get given things like Active Directory user accounts. So this is where we get to test operating under the assumption that, for example, one of your users has been phished or a domain user has been compromised, and then we try and see where can we go from this position. Usually we're given quite a low privilege access to the system, and that way we can also test things like privilege escalation, lateral movement, and then, yeah.
So, in other words, how robust an environment might be from that initial entry point of phishing email or a piece of malware, something like that.
Absolutely. What we see quite a lot is you do a fully black box, fully unauthenticated, let's say a web application penetration test. And a lot of the time, you can't get past the login page, right? There's a lot of assumptions around, you should be able to SQL inject the login page and find this hectic authentication bypass. But a lot of the time that's not the case, and a lot of web applications, we have had a fair few of those, but nowadays a lot of web applications are fairly secure from the internet-facing front because a lot of companies have realized, hey, our stuff is out there on the internet, it's being scanned on the daily, we really need to make sure this is secure. So if we do get stuck against the login page, there's only so much that we can really do. A lot of that actual authenticated functionality never gets assessed. It doesn't get checked beyond, is this login page secure? Yeah, cool. A lot of the authentication, authorization vulnerabilities, we never find them.